Oh, here we go. All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the roadmap to our future, talk about how we ended up at this particular grant making framework. We're going to have an opportunity to hear from Kathy about our Broward Center for Nonprofit Excellence. And then we're going to go through the details in regards to our grant guidebook and the grant portal. So let's just dive right into our roadmap to our future with the next slide. So we went through a new strategic plan that we started implementing July 1st of this year. And this new strategic plan, it clearly defines our vision for Broward and our mission to make this the best community it can be, and the values that are going to drive everything that we do here at the foundation. And so the strategic planning process started already back in 2021. We hosted a series of listening sessions and different focus groups to hear from many different voices. We heard from nonprofits, we'd heard from our board, we'd heard from community leaders and community members, fund holders, and all other different community foundation of our partners. And of course, we also tapped into the experience and the expertise of many of our former board members. So this turned out to be an about 8-month-long process. And we heard a lot about what people love about Broward and what they also consider to be our greatest challenges, and how the community foundation can make a greater impact both today and in the future. And so what you see here on the screen is our brand new strategic plan. Like I said, it started to take effect July 1st. And if you haven't seen it in your organization's mailbox, you can also find this on our website. It's an interesting read, and I suggest that you read it when you have a chance. But if we go to the next slide, what I wanted to share with you is we wanted to have a strategic plan that really built on the foundation's history, along with some new opportunities to take our impact to the next level. And as you see here before you, we have an updated mission and vision, and we are definitely here to be for the community, because the new strategic plan considers all of our historical data, and it has resulted in 6 new pillars that I'm going to talk to you about in a little bit. So like I said, this new 5-year plan includes this refreshed mission that you see on the screen, and the bolder vision and compelling values. And so the next slide, please. So what you see here on the slide is our new values. We want to lead with purpose. We want to cherish diversity. We want to create collaboration, and we want to empower philanthropy. And last but not least, we want to listen, learn, and share. And that is part of what we're doing here today. We're here to share about our new grant making focus. And when we get into the chat later and in the breakout room, we're going to have an opportunity to listen and learn from what your questions might be. So that is what that is. And so now looking at what our 6 pillars are inside of the new strategic plan, you see number 1 is community leadership. Number 2 is donor services. Number 3 is our asset growth. That is how we get more dollars into the community foundation, which means we have more dollars to spend on nonprofits. Number 4 is community impact. And number 4, community impact, is where our grant making focus area sits, and where the team here today also work under that department. Number 5 is our brand, and I'm sure that you've seen us more on social media and also out there in print media and on the radio. We're trying to make sure that our brand is known and that everybody knows about what we are doing here at the foundation. And last but not least is our operations here at the foundation. We, as you can tell from today, we're now 4 team members on the community impact team. So we have more than doubled in size since the last fiscal year. And so we're doing that because we're prepared to work harder for you, the nonprofits, to make sure that we can support as many as possible as we can for the wonderful work that you do in the community. So now let's dive right into what we're here to talk about, the meat of the conversation, I just wanted to share with you that we have a boosting, building, and transformation, different buckets. So one being the small grants. Some of you might have heard about our small grants opportunities. Those are that opportunity is not currently open. We're looking to open it early January 2023. The gist of the small grants opportunity is to reduce barriers for grassroots and minority-led nonprofits to be able to boost their capacity and their learning resources. It is a single-year grant, and the grants are based upon their annual operating budgets. But what we are here today to talk about is our focus area grants, which we're using to try and support organizations, and they're built kind of what you see here on the screen. They're set up to be more like linear or singularly focused on one of the 4 different focus areas. We have rolling applications, which means there are no deadlines, which is exciting, I hope, for all of you. The opportunity with the focus areas, you can apply for a single year grant, or you can apply for a multi-year grant from us of maximum of 3 years. And also the maximum request for any focus area grants is up to $100,000. I do want to just share that typically our average grant runs somewhere in around $50,000 to $65,000, just, to put that out there. That doesn't mean that we don't give out $100,000 grants. I just wanted to share so that you're aware. And then the other bucket that we have that is not focus area is the Transforming Big Think grant. It is a more comprehensive.
What did you say the name of the website was?
Would you please put that in the chat? And so the Big Think grant making opportunity is more dynamic. We're looking for innovation, some comprehensive systemic or policy change. It is a requirement that you have collaborators, and you need to have at least 2 collaborating partners that are on board. And this is going to be a multi-year opportunity, and there is no maximum budget amount. It is up to the particular project that you're applying for. It's an open application inside of the portal, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about what the Big Think really entails as we go through the presentation. And so the one thing that I wanted to share before we jump into the next slide here is that all of our grant making focus moving forward, we have applied the Ready Lens, and we will apply the Ready Lens to all of our grant making. We want to make sure that that racial justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion is applied to all projects that the foundation supports moving forward. So we want you guys to take that in mind as you're also developing your programs, that those are the ones that we are really, truly looking for. And next slide, please. Okay, so just a little bit more additional information for you in regards to small grants, in case I have some of you that fit that bucket and you are looking to apply in January. The small grants that we're looking for, again, is to reduce barriers for grassroots and or minority-led nonprofits. You have to have an annual operating budget of $500,000 or less. You have to have been at least in operation for 2 years in Broward. And the project that you're proposing has to be accessible to a local community in Broward. You can be a fully volunteer-driven organization, or there could be a mix of full-time and part-time staff. If you have already gotten a grant from the foundation, you need to be in good standing and have submitted all of your reports and that sort of thing. And the grant award will be based on your annual operating budget, could range from $2,500 to $25,000. Next slide, please. Okay, so here you go again. So our focus areas are education and youth enrichment, social and economic mobility, healthy and thriving communities, and art and culture. All of these 4 focus areas, we accept rolling applications. Again, no deadlines. We do have some opportunities for Ready and through the Broward Center for Nonprofit Excellence that is by invitation only, and we will talk a little bit more about that later. So let's go ahead and dive right into education. Okay, let's go to the timeline. Sorry. So because we're doing this whole rolling application cycles, I wanted to just share this as a sample application timeline to help guide you as you're developing your proposals. So these are just some random dates I pick out of my hat here, but let's say if you submit an application under art and culture by January 20th, then you can expect a notification approximately 2 months later from the foundation to find out what is the status of your application. Is it a go or no? But just know that because you won't find out until the end of the month in March, you can't start your project until the earliest May 1st. So just keep that in mind, that it will take about 3 to 4 months until you hear from us, and then you can actually start your project. So these are pretty good guidelines as far as dates as you're developing your proposals. And again, I will come up with more sample timelines as the fiscal year progresses, because again, we don't have the deadlines. We just want to make sure that you can apply when the time is right for you. Next slide. Okay, if you have previously applied under our old Issues That Matter, we just wanted to put this slide up there to help guide you in your thought process of where you might fit within this new grant-making framework. So the education and youth enrichment focus area, if you had our previous school is cool, youth work, or even a Broward Pride grantee, this might be a bucket for you to consider. For healthy and thriving communities, if you've been a previous BFIT, Eco Broward, Cancel Cancer, patient support, or dignity in aging, or again, Broward Pride, that might be a bucket for you. Art and culture is pretty self-explanatory. It's previous art of community grantees, but we can also see other issue areas in there, like for example, dignity in aging or Broward Pride. The social and economic mobility, again, speaks to previous economic independence, but also the aging, the senior population of Broward Pride can see themselves in this work. The one thing that I wanted to point out is that if we're not doing cancer research through these focus areas anymore, and we're not doing animal welfare through these focus areas anymore, that doesn't mean that we don't support it. We absolutely do. However, we do that by invitation only. And if you're doing a cancer research project, and or if you're doing some animal welfare work in Broward County, you would have to reach out to us to let us know what is happening. But I will tell you this though, the majority of the animal welfare dollars that we have available is geared towards spay-neuter programs. So I just want to put that out there, but please, we still want to hear from you if you're an animal welfare organization about what you're doing. You can simply just email us at grants@CF Broward and let us know. Perfect, thank you. Next slide. Okay, so our first focus area that we're going to talk about today is education and youth enrichment. And so you see it here on the screen, what we're trying to aim with this particular issue area is to help Broward's youth gain those critical skills to shape their lives and future career opportunities. And we do that because we know that in order to start positive habits and build a youth confidence that is going to last a lifetime, we do truly have to engage them through education and enriching activities, because then we can untap their greatest potential. The one thing that I wanted to point out, though, that some youth may learn differently and excel in special education or in alternative education. And I want those groups to see themselves in this particular focus area as well. We want to have this focus area is focused on building resilience by decreasing negative risk factors for our youth or our young people. We want to make sure that we can have a positive engagement with them so that they're less inclined to participate in any type of risky behavior, so that they can then successfully transition into adulthood. And so we have 3 buckets underneath education and youth enrichment, one being exposure to new opportunities, where we want to make sure that youth who haven't had the opportunity perhaps to go to the beach and uncover and get that spark plug of, wow, maybe I want to become a marine biologist. How can I do that? Or we simply just want to inspire youth by having those exposures to new opportunities to become change makers in their communities and beyond, or to just spark a profession or something for them to pursue as they grow older. They can, it could be anything with technology, it could be entrepreneurship, it could be college tours even, and anything that you can think of, but we don't want to put any prescription on this. This is up to your creativity. K through 12 academic achievement is exactly what it says. It's to help students gain those academic improvements, especially according to the Florida standards and how they're going to change in the future. We will be flexible with what that is. But we do want to make sure that we can identify and address gaps in student performance, and how can we help them improve or decrease those gaps and increase the learning gains, right? It could be any type of programs for special education or alternative education that we could see within this. Last but not least in this bucket is work-based learning. Sort of kind of similar to previous youth work, but it is an opportunity for students to have that real life hands-on work experience, so where they can apply both their academic and their technical skills while they're developing those very important soft skills and life skills. We have heard from employers that our young people don't necessarily know how to be punctual. They're always on their phone. They have a hard time having small talk, and they need to work on their team building skills. So we're looking for opportunities that we can have with our young people to receive those work-based learning opportunities. And that is education and youth enrichment. Our next bucket that I'm going to continue to talk here, and then I'm going to turn it over to somebody else, is art and culture. And so as you can see here on the screen, we aim to expand and elevate and sustain a vibrant arts community here in Broward. We want to be able to celebrate our community's history. We want to be able to increase arts education and exposure to unique arts, because we all know that art and culture is the core of a thriving community. It is a vital component to connect people not only to their neighbors, but also to all other groups in the community. Historically, art and culture programs and organizations have been underfunded and always been the first to be cut or reduced during budget times. Also, too many of our residents are still cut off from the power of art. And so we want to make sure that we can reduce those barriers. We want to make sure that people have access to the arts. This particular category here now is open from young to old, special needs, LGBTQ, any residents, all populations can see themselves in arts and culture. This is compared to previously when we have more focused this towards adults. It is open to any age group, any population. We want you to see yourself within this framework. A new bucket that we're pursuing is arts education. We want to see if there is an opportunity for the arts to perhaps, for youth or adults, to use arts as a tool to stimulate a career path. We want to have more artists in our community. Also, art therapy. Art therapy is very powerful. It's something that could help residents or people heal during difficult times. And it could also be something that could help throughout the year if you want to celebrate something or to other challenging times that you might have. So if you have a program for art therapy that you can put together that will help young, old, or anybody in between, we would like to hear from you in regards to that. We also want to make sure that we can sustain and grow our cultural assets here in Broward. We want to create a more enriching community. We, of course, focuses this on our different libraries, different cultural institutions, also historical or humanities. We want to make sure that we can, again, sustain and grow those organizations so that more residents can come and actually be immersed in those particular cultural institutions. The traditional arts is the next bucket, and I think this one speaks the most to the previous art of community. It is an opportunity for us to elevate the arts in Broward. We want to make sure that all residents can participate in programs. It could be anything from live performances, it could be painting or creation of a mural or any form of public art installations, song, dance, anything, film, anything in between is a welcomed opportunity to see, as long as we can see how residents, young or old, have an opportunity to access and participate in it. Last but not least is the individual artist. And so, no, we do not accept applications from individual artists at this time. We have, in fact, a collaborative opportunity with the Broward Cultural Division to support their Artist and Innovation Program. And they have a new cycle opening up in early 2023. So if you're an artist and you're looking for support for a project, then go to the Broward Cultural Division's website and sign up for their program. In fact, I was actually just attending one of their sessions last night, and so they have a nice packet of information available if you're interested. Or you can, if you're an artist, you can also partner with a nonprofit and develop a program that way and still be able to work with us. And so that is the art and culture focus area. And so I will now turn it over to Cassandra.
Thank you so much, Angelica. I feel like you guys might be seeing me super slow. For some reason, I'm trying to move so you can see I am real and not a bot. But good afternoon, everyone. So social and economic mobility. As you can see on the screen, to empower hardworking residents to move to financial stability and have strong economic foundation, to break that cycle of poverty, right? Have some sort of self-worth and, of course, independence. So why is this important? Economic mobility measures movement up or down the income ladder throughout a person's life, which can affect which can be affected by multiple indicators. So we know social mobility or social capital, it refers to connections, networks, relationships among people and value that arises from them that can be assessed or mobilized to help individuals succeed. So the lack of social mobility for certain individuals can lead to unequal opportunities in life. So we want to address those in these 4 buckets. Talent pipeline. We're looking to build a stronger pipeline of diverse talent and fuel local economic growth by reducing the skills gap and meet demands for workforce. So talent through workforce training to deliver these tools, knowledge, and resources that will enhance an individual's contribution to a company. So when we talk about this talent pipeline, we're looking at maybe going, I know this is going to sound old school, but let's look at plumbing again, or air conditioning. And I know if you live in South Florida, we need it. It's a matter of life and death here. So going back to these type of skills and demands in the workforce. So let's look at going backwards a little bit to evaluate some of those places. So getting GED certifications, it's still something that's out there. So that would fall under the talent pipeline. How about removing barriers? As we all know, we all know about the social determinants of health and just all the things that can help someone possibly work through the talent pipeline. So you're looking to break through systemic barriers under this bucket for accessing enhanced economic options, opportunities, and outcomes. So these things might include transportation. I mean, we all know that's pretty hard in Broward County. Sometimes we just can't get to the jobs that we want, and we have the talent, but now we can't show up for it. So, looking to remove those type of barriers, maybe childcare. Looking at single moms that want to go back into the workforce, but just the affordability of it all, dealing with childcare services. How about attainable housing? We're not even talking about affordable anymore. We're just like, hey, if we can attain one, it's enough. Just assisting in that and technology to enable upward mobility. Most most locations now, if you're trying to apply for a job, it is something that you have to go online or access the app on their phones, and you go through all these things. We have to think about removing some of those barriers for individuals without internet in their home and being able to apply for jobs. And then a future financial success bucket that provides pathways to education and empower underserved individuals through greater financial literacy, savings and investment opportunities and options, especially in this day and age. Just being able to give someone a debit card or some sort of access to pay something doesn't mean they're financially literate. We see that all the time with predatory loans or predatory lendings. We know in most communities, their way of accessing some sort of financial gain beyond going into the banks, they're going to the check cashing store, or there's just an inability to maneuver the financial process. So, future financial success is an umbrella. And then, of course, entrepreneurship, develop entrepreneurship opportunities to open small businesses and promote entrepreneurship. So, teaching individuals how to maybe work on a startup, just starting a business. We have so many talented individuals in the county that are doing, I guess, what we would call unconventional businesses. You're looking at not everybody's going to be a YouTuber or an influencer. But if we're looking at what's out there now, individuals are doing, hair and makeup and celebrity styling makeup, and we're doing permanent makeup. This is pretty big business, except they just need some guidance as far as entrepreneurship side. So on the foundations end, we've actually invested with Broward College. We were awarded them $1 million on our Be Bold Prize for a 2-year pilot to expand Broward up with the launch of employees designed to provide support services in education and job matching for chronic and underemployed residents. And there's definitely 6 zip codes in Broward County that they're working towards. So think about those type of things under social and economic mobility. And we're moving on to my next bucket. All right, so healthy and thriving communities, and you see the aim to improve health equity and well-being across all populations and communities and build a flourishing, resilient, and sustainable environment. So, community plays an important role in every aspect of our lives. We all know that. Healthy and growing communities represent the very essence of sustainability. Optimal health results from positive physical, let's talk about mental, emotional, spiritual, and social support. So, community members who can rely on each other and work together towards fulfilling those supports are usually healthier and stronger and better equipped for success overall. So, because of this collective support, communities have the tendency to flourish in that manner. So, what we're looking for under these buckets, the foundation supports programs and initiatives for healthy communities across Broward that's going to achieve better outcomes in all the areas of health. and environmental education and sustainability across all populations and all age groups. So if we start on physical health, we want to see somewhere we create social and physical environments that promote good health for all ages. So again, stemming back from the social determinants that we know about. Provide structured physical activity that's easily accessible to resident and takes place over an 8-month period or longer. So if it's something that looks like it's going to be a 3-month situation, this may not, may not be for you under that bucket. We want to see an 8-month or longer period. So we can actually track, the knowledge and behavior changes. Promote programs that address chronic disease prevention and intervention. And then under our mental health category, we want to reduce stigma regarding mental health and normalizing seeking help and self care. As we all know, this is a very important umbrella right now in Broward County. So, we want to increase access to mental health services in low income communities specifically. And we want to provide innovative outlets and resources for continued mental health support. So anything that's innovative and it has to do with mental health, look under that umbrella. Food and nutrition, reduce household food insecurity and hunger. And if we're all looking at what's going on right now, it's a lot of people affected by this in Broward County. When you're looking at making the decision between buying some eggs and just regular stuff and bread for your kids. Um, so these are things that we want to work under that umbrella, reducing household insecurity and hunger, and it may be assisting um, our community in that. Promote healthy eating habits and inspire residents to take charge of their health. Build long-term capacity of communities to increase access to fresher, more nutritious food supplies. Um, so these are the things under food and nutrition. And then of course, environmental education and sustainability. Promote environmental health programs and interventions. With I was just at a climate summit last week, and just so much talks about resilience. So just keep these things in mind when we're looking at some of the programs that are being put out for environmental, reducing the amount of toxic pollutants released into the environment. We live in South Florida, so we know. Support habitat protection, coastal resilience, what I was just talking about, and water quality, energy efficiency, environmental outreach, and more. And the last thing under this bucket is education programs for our youth and adults. You know, think about beach cleanups or just educating the youth on what we're leaving behind. Because as we grow up, they're going to take this over, and then whatever that's left behind, they have to know how to make it a little bit more resilient, and just educating them that. And I do want to note the foundation's support in the South Florida community with our health hub. It combines more than 36 partners currently and stakeholders, including grassroots. We have faith-based organization, municipalities, hospitals, and others to develop the mission, a vision, and goals for collaboration that will help the local community address health needs. So this is current in the South Broward area specifically, dealing with the Dania Beach, the Patch, and that area. And then also we've teamed up with the Museum of Discovery Science to launch a Broward Eco Hub for resiliency education. So this was earlier this year. It's a 3-year grant, and it will champion community engagement, education, action for environmental sustainability, and resilience in Broward County. So I know Angelica talked about this before, because some people were concerned, hey, I've applied for, another grant before, but just remember what is your final outcome and what you want to achieve, because some of these might fall under different buckets, as we stated earlier. So if it's going to be, the outcome is something dealing with the physical health or mental health, just keep in mind whichever one you want to prioritize would be the bucket that you apply for. That's my piece. Go ahead, Angelica.
Okay, thank you, Cassandra. All right, so now we have talked about the 4 focus areas that we have open, where you have to go through the eligibility quiz, and Tina's going to walk you through that a little bit later in order to apply. But we also have the Big Think grant making opportunity, which is our brand new multi-year collaborative funding opportunity. And so if we go to the next slide, what I wanted to share is that there are some very distinct differences in between these 2 opportunities. So I wanted to just make sure that everybody's very clear that the focus area grants are focused on one particular focus area to be addressed. You can do that for a single year or for multi-year. However, for the multi-year, we want to see that you are able to build sustainability into your program. So it's not like I'm going to ask for $100,000 for 3 years, and that's going to be it. No, we want to see that you start talking to us about sustainability for your program if you're requesting a multi-year for the focus areas. We do encourage collaboration for the focus area grants, but it's not required. But we do want to have letters of commitments from your collaborators or your partners if you have them. And when we ask for letters of commitments, we're not asking for a letter from an organization saying that, yes, we love your work, we support it. No, the letter of commitment must include what the partner or collaborator's skin in the game is. Are they contributing? Is there like a financial contribution that is coming towards this program? Or how else are they becoming an integral part of the program? That's what needs to be in the letter of commitment to be shared with the application. Also, again, to reiterate, the $100,000 is the maximum that you can request per year under a focus area grant. Now, the Big Think grants, those are significant issues that we want to have addressed in Broward. We are looking for innovative, bold projects, really outside of the box type thinking that could have implications to systemic or possibly policy changes. Of course, it has to impact, clients or residents of Broward. We need to have collaborators for this particular project. You need to have at least 2, and you need to have them lined up with your big idea by the time you submit the letter of intent. And so like the name has, it's Big Think. This is big projects, big requests, right? So we want to make sure that we can support, some big and bold projects that have 2 or more partners and collaborators that will work together to solve a significant problem, whether that is systemic or policy related, like I mentioned earlier, but it has to positively impact the community or the clients that you serve. The one thing that I also need to point out is whatever it is that you're pitching under this Big Thing, it has to align with one of the 4 focus areas, you see? So if the project has to do with something art related, then you have to tie it into the art of community. The same, sorry, not art of community, that was before, art and culture. Or you have to show that it has, a connection to healthy and thriving communities, if that's what the problem, the issue is that you're trying to solve. But again, want to point out that we're looking for significant, innovative, big, bold projects. We know these are going to take time to solve, so we anticipate this to be a multi-year request. We anticipate that it's going to be expensive, and we don't want to prescribe a maximum amount. That's why you will tell us how much it's going to take to solve this problem. If you submit the letter of intent, and you will hear back from us about the progress of your application. If we go to the next slide. So what will happen is we have deadlines for these particular grants. One is coming up tomorrow, so it's really short on time if you're just hearing about this now. But we have another deadline coming up in January, on January 13th. And if you can't make it happen before January 13th, don't sweat it. We will come up with new deadlines. This is just a pilot thing that we're trying out right now, but there will be more deadlines forthcoming. So don't think that there won't be any more opportunities. But you will receive your status update by a certain date, as you can see here on your on the screen. If you are selected to continue through the process after you've submitted your letter of intent with the letters from your partners to say that yes, they're in agreement with you, they want to pursue this idea, right? Because that has to be part of the letter of intent. Then you will be invited to a brain trust session, and the brain trust sessions, the dates and times are already set. It will be you along with your collaborators. They have to be there. They're going to come in here to the foundation. It's going to most likely be an in-person meeting. We're going to have community foundation staff members. There's going to be community expertise in the room. There's going to be other community stakeholders, and we're going to have a conversation about what it is that you're proposing. And we are going to try our very best to poke holes at your big ideas to try and strengthen your idea and see if it's something that is doable to move forward. And if it's doable to move forward, you will then submit an actual full, complete application by the dates that you see on the screen. That will include the final budget. That will include those letter of commitments now from your collaborators and partners to let us know what their committed stake or skin in the game is going to be. As you can see, you'll see here what the award notifications are going to be. We have one in April, we have one in May. And of course, then the earliest a project could start is either in June or July, depending on the deadline that you're applying under. But again, don't sweat it. There will be more deadlines announced, over the next few weeks or months or so. So there will be more opportunities for the big thank grant. But I'm hoping that this makes it clear that this is a separate opportunity from focus area grants. And again, I can only state this one more time, that we are looking for some significant issues to be addressed through the big think grants. Next slide. So I am done talking and I'm going to turn it over to Kathy.
Thanks, everyone. And wow, we have had a fabulous chat, lots of really good questions. So keep those coming. Some of them we'll be breaking out, as we said, at the end of this, and give you a chance to ask more individualized and guidance questions. But one of the questions that did pop up real quick, Angelica, was the question about if someone has been funded through a previous grant, say the small grants program, does that give them priority over their over selection or over their application? So that might be something just to jump in and share real quick before we continue forward.
Yeah, so that is a good question, Kathy, and I'm happy to answer that. So had you received a small grant or any other grant from the foundation for that matter, no, that doesn't give you a priority over anybody coming in new to the foundation. We look at all application from a fair lens. We are looking for the best possible application, the best project, the best impact, and that is how the committee will review all of the applications. Because again, maybe I should have shared this before, but all of the focus areas and the big think, they all have a committee wrapped around it that review and scores and provide recommendations about the programs that to be submitted and to be recommended. And so no, everybody's on an equal footing when it comes to applications being submitted.
Great, thanks, Angelica. I appreciate that. The other two areas that we are working on by funding are more invitation only situations. The first, as we said, is the Broward Center for Nonprofit Excellence, which is the program that I've joined the foundation to run, to sort of kick off and run, and then which we'll talk more about in a moment. And then the second area is our racial justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion area. And there'll be some points through the year where we're looking for specific applications or proposals there. So know that you'll continue. If you've joined us here and you've gotten the information about today's session, you're in the loop. You'll be continuing to get information on these opportunities as well. So let's go into the next slide, please. So as we said, one of the organizations or one of the programs that we've launched as a result of the most recent strategic planning process is the Broward Center for Nonprofit Excellence. So let's move forward on the next slide, please. And that actually came out of a couple different things. As Angelica was saying earlier, it is a part of our understanding of what the community was looking for, but it was also a broader look at, as you can see here, the number of nonprofits in Broward, which we have over 9,000 organizations, which when you look at that compared to the US and even into Florida, we as a sector employ over 49,000 people in the work and have a revenue of over $6 billion. So we are as a sector an important factor, an important contributor to the economy in Broward, and a critical support for Broward. And so from that, if you go to the next slide, the foundation realized that we wanted to continue to help the nonprofit sector, this key impact for our economy and for our residents, to grow and to support you and the work that you're doing. So our goal with this particular program is to really provide the resources, the support, the tools to help you do the work that you're doing. So you know, the "We're here to help" slogan is kind of where we're spending our time. The idea is to really help you continue to do your work well, not to tell you how to do it, but to provide you the support and the information. So there is some funding set aside as well for that. So Tina, if we can go to the next, please. So here's what we're doing. We are, first and foremost, we are brand new. We have been getting ourselves organized. I've met many of you as I've been out in the community, getting to know you, getting to know our community and our nonprofit sector. And we've spent some time really building this framework for excellence through which we will be delivering our programs and doing our work moving forward. The start of that is really this whole idea of what is nonprofit excellence. And that is really a pathway that we are all on to continue to improve and grow. It is not a destination, but a journey. That, you know, you've heard that phrase a lot, but that is really how we're approaching this. Is wherever you are, we look for ways to help you continue to grow and improve as you do your work to better Broward. We've done a community assessment. We've taken a look at, and we're anticipating the results of that to come out any day, where we've really taken a look at where are we as a sector right now? What are the key areas of interest and priority? From that, we will build communities of practice. For those who receive grant funding, we have some grantee peer networks. We've got, even for those who don't receive the funding, we've got some opportunities to grow and to learn together, because we know that you know, you can take a seminar or a workshop or a training, you know, or watch a video. There are a lot of different ways you can gather information, but we need to process that as adult learners and as humans. So the opportunity to come together in various ways, this being one version of that, to talk and to share and to learn, will continue to grow in that way. From that, we're compiling and sharing resources and providing support ongoing. So this may feel in the middle of this session like a bit of a sidetrack, but if we'll go to the next slide, the whole idea here is that we are in fact here to help. So we do have some things coming up that may be of help to you, including what we're calling our learning labs. And we've got some different topics that are coming. But if you are brand new to grant writing or brand new to working with grant proposals, then you are welcome to be part of a new series we're calling Grants 101. And this is a basic beginning level how grants work, how you prepare your organization for grants, how you design and prepare a grant funding idea, how you turn this amazing idea that you have into an actual proposal that would be applicable certainly for the community foundation, but also perhaps for other funders. And then finally, how we actually put an application together. And Tina's going to walk us through this particular application process. But the session on March the 9th will actually walk you through what you need to have at the ready in order to be prepared for that. These are not required sessions. They are also free sessions. So if they work out for you, we'd love you to register. I'll put the information in the chat on how to do that if that's of interest. But we just wanted to let you know this is just a brief look at some of the things that are coming up. And that ultimately our goal through the Nonprofit Center is to be the resource. We're getting ready to launch our section of the website in the next month or so. It'll have lots of different resources available for you to continue to grow and support your work. So we want you to know that we're available. And as you work through the process, that you can turn to us for questions as is appropriate. So let me turn this back over to our colleagues to walk you through kind of how you apply for this process. And again, I'll stick the registration information in the chat momentarily. Thanks.
All right, everybody. So we're going to head over to the technical side of the house. And I just want to start by pointing out that on our website, if you haven't already downloaded the focus area grant guide, you can go to our website and you can navigate under receive up at the top, and you would be able to find this document on the page along with the portal that we'll walk through next. So hopefully a lot of us have already gone in and created an account. But when you go onto our website, there'll also be an area that says apply for a grant. This is where you'll get the process started. And this is the login page that you'll see when you log in. Over here, you'll see some just general information, giving information about whether a grant process is open. For example, you'll see on there that it says closed for our small grants because, like Angelica said, we'll have a new cycle in spring. So anyway, back to the screen here. If your organization has a portal login, go ahead. You can either figure out, who's going to be the contact for that portal and who will fill out applications. And I'll talk about collaborations later, so you'll know a little bit about that. But the contact person, make sure that they have their login. If you don't know if there's already a login for your organization, you can reach out to grants@cfbroward.org, and we will figure out if there is already a portal open for your organization. If not, you can go ahead and hit create a new account and walk through the steps. They're pretty self-explanatory when you get on there. The software is pretty easy in that way. So after you do create your account, you'll be taken to what is kind of like your application screen. And if you've ever had any applications in the past through this particular system, you'll find that information here on your front page. I also do want to add that if you applied for a grant in the past with the old system, your information did not merge over. So you will have to create a new account, and your historical requests won't be in this particular system. So once you're in here, you can navigate up here to your apply page. And here we have another home screen that you'll have. It has information about the big grant, the focus areas, basically the ones that are open currently. And for the focus area, from here on out, I'll kind of focus on the focus areas as we walk through the applications for this. The big thing, like Angelica said, is an LOI, so it's a little bit more freehand, but the focus areas we're going to want to walk through a little bit more. So you're going to go ahead and start by selecting the Start Eligibility Quiz. And then you'll walk through some questions. I do want to point out 2 questions that can be a little bit tricky. One of them is the applicant application status. So basically, if you had an application in the past that was not supported, we do want to kind of talk through what that looks like. And maybe, for example, maybe you applied under the wrong focus area and it could have fit better in another area. We kind of just want to talk through what that looks like, so the next time you're able to be successful. So as you click through those questions, you'll kind of see whether or not you need to reach out to the foundation. Okay, and then the next one I want to go over is the applicant grantee status. This question is really to ensure that we're applying for the right area and that you aren't already a grantee. So if you already have a small grant currently, what we're going to want you to do is kind of speak to us, and you can speak to us offline on what that looks like for you applying for a focus area grant. But basically, you can't have any of the buckets at the same time, be in an agreement with any of the buckets at the same time, if that makes sense. So we do want to be able to talk to you again about what that looks like and when your project is actually going to be completed, so that we know when you're able to actually apply during the rolling cycles. All right. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. That is it here. Also, if you made a mistake on your eligibility quiz, feel free to reach out to Grants at CF Broward, and I can go ahead on the back end and you can figure out what happened, and we'll be able to correct it if you feel like there's an error. And so going with that, if you were eligible for a certain area, it will pop up here and you'll be able to start the application and continue. There'll also be another button that says preview, so you'll be able to preview the application as well. And like I said, if you did your eligibility quiz failed, basically what the eligibility quiz does is usher you into the appropriate application, or if you're not eligible, it kind of puts a roadblock there. Again, if you feel like that's an error, feel free to reach out to us at the foundation. All right, so just some pro tips once you're in the actual application. I'll start with the question list. So in the application, there's this question list, and it's going to basically give you everything that's in the application. What I do want to warn you, though, is when you click this question list, you might get additional information that you didn't see on your particular application. And that's because in the application, depending on how you answer certain things, more information will pop up or you'll have less information to fill out. So when you're going through that question list, just kind of try to pay attention to where those happenings can be. And hopefully you won't be too confused by that. So I just wanted to give you that tidbit. And so let's say up here at the top where it says copy previous answers. Let's say you've already filled out an application in the past. Instead of having to start completely over, you can go copy answers from your past application. The only caveat with that is if you applied in a different focus area previously, it won't be able to copy over. Let's say you had a education and youth enrichment application at one point, and then you have a healthy and thriving communities. It won't be able to talk to each other and switch those questions over. But you will be able to go to past requests. So that will show you all of the requests that you've ever provided into this portal. So you will at least be able to go into that application and kind of copy paste it over to where you are. I want to definitely point out here, when you're putting in your information, when you set up your account, make sure that all of the information is spelled correctly, the address is correct, and that the case is correct too. So no all caps or no all lowercase, because the way that you put it in here is the way that our system will capture it for agreements and anything else if you were awarded. All right. So you'll see this on the application. It's just some application pro tips. Two that I want to point out for sure is that we have virtual Q&A sessions where because this is brand new and we all know that, we want to provide as much help as we can through this process. So we're going to have virtual quality assurance hours where we just sit there, we're on the phone for an hour, and you're able to jump on and ask any questions that you have about the application process or anything that you need done. When it comes to something technical, let's say that the budget form isn't working or any of the templates aren't working, I want you to go ahead and reach out as soon as possible. And in that line, put application technical assistance so that I can get on that right away, because if it's affecting you, most likely it's affecting others too. So we want to get that cleaned up. And that's it here. Okay. So let's go to some pro tips for that section A in the application. So there are going to be a couple of uploads that you're going to need to provide. The first one is going to say board list and affiliation. That document can come in any form that you have it in. Letterhead is best. Just go ahead, send it up however you want that to be uploaded. It can be uploaded in any form, Word, Excel, however. And then we have the board demographics. So this is something new that we're doing. Like they said, after the strategic plan, we kind of centered ourselves on knowing that we need to be more intentional about capturing some data about our nonprofits and what our nonprofits look like. And especially for Kathy on her end, to then take that information and see what kind of courses we might need, or what resources in the community can be provided through the nonprofit center. So this year we will be capturing demographics. This is going to be in an Excel form on this side. It's not, the cell is locked, everything is locked, so you can't mess it up. But if there's something messed up about it, reach out to me as soon as possible. And that information is there. Then we're going to need your most recent audit. I know some organizations can be super big, or they have multiple departments. Let's, for example, like a city entity where there's a bunch of audits that go on. Just reach out to me, let me know, and we'll figure out how we can get that very large possible file over to the foundation. Annual operating budget and project program budget. So when you download this, know that you're going to be providing two sets of information on this one document. So keep that in mind. You'll be providing your annual operating budget information on that first tab. And to the best of your abilities, try to fit what your information is onto the categories that we have here. And I want to point out that for the last year's actual, we want your fiscal years, your actual fiscal years, annual operating budget. And then for the current, we want your projected fiscal year from start to finish, what that operating budget will be. So if you're in what we don't want to see is, like, if you're in the 7th month of your fiscal year, we don't want you to just stop up to that 7th month. We want the whole projection of it. Okay, so on tab 2 and 3, so start over here on tab 2, is going to be your budget narrative. Be very specific about what you want to put in. We do expect the narrative to be spelled out, especially when it comes to the personnel portion. And with that, I'll just add, when it comes to the overhead or cost, we want to see that pushed up somewhere into this budget, and that allocation, that description for that allocation needs to make sense for what you're budgeting in. So let's talk about some of the technical portions of this. Where you see this arrow pointing here, if you're going to add additional rows and you have, let's say you have more staff than what is here on that row, you're going to add your extra row. If you add it anywhere else, the formulas will not capture it. This sheet is also locked, so if you have, you could either, so let's say you had 5 people and then you realized that you didn't need that extra one in there, you wanted that line to no longer be there, just delete the numbers out of it and it won't calculate whatever is in there. So hopefully that made sense, you guys. If it didn't, we'll go ahead and do the breakout rooms, excuse me. And then tab 3 is just going to automatically populate based off of what you wrote in your narrative. All right, some more pro tips. This one is for section B. So collaborations must have a letter of intent, like Angelica mentioned, before or during the submission of your application. So in this section, it's going to have that option to say yes or no, I'll have collaborators. And this is one of those questions that's going to populate an additional section where you would fill out or you would have your uploads for the collaborations. Like Angelica mentioned, this can be multi-year. And you'll select whether, which one you would like it to be for your multi-year. Something I want to point out that's important on this page is the total requested amount. So because we do have not rolling cycles, multi-year this year, there's going to be, you could choose something that's going to be 3 years. But how do you kind of capture that in here? So let's say that $60,000 was going to be the cost of the first year and $60,000 was going to be the cost of the second year. What you would enter in this cell is the $120,000 in there. So your total requested amount. In the back end, because we have your budgets, we'll be able to figure out what your single year is. All right, so for the key area, so Angelica and Cassandra had their sections earlier, and they were talking about how all the different breakouts. So this is where you're going to have that in your application. You're able to select more than one of them if you'd like, if you're going to be able to report outcomes on both of those. But I want to caution you to only select the ones that you're going to be able to have outcomes on, because it will be a part of the review process of your application. This is not to say that you can't have components that are kind of weaved in there. For example, you had a work-based learning program, but you also have some exposures to new opportunities, but that's not something that you really track. It's more supplemental. You wouldn't select exposure to new opportunities, but you will definitely add it in your narrative, which we'll talk about right now. So in general, these are the questions that you're going to see on your application. For our eco-related or environmental-related applications, the questions are going to be a little bit different. Same thing for the arts and culture, just so that it makes a little bit more sense for the specification of those two areas. But in general, this is what you're going to have on there for your program narrative. And for your evaluation narrative, we're going to be talking more about how you're going to collect data and everything. So this year, again, we're trying to be very intentional about showing the impact that we're having in our community. And one of those ways that we're going to accomplish that is to have sections where our applicants can actually put in their objectives. So this is just going to be a little bit of breakdown on how many objectives each section, each focus area will have. If you are going to do a healthy and thriving communities application that includes mental health, physical health, or food and nutrition focus or outcomes, you, along with social economic mobility, education and youth enrichment, will have at least 2 objectives per key of those that we selected. So for example, when we are trying to select the exposure, we'll have exposure and experiences. So you would select 2. Or if you selected those 2, you would need to have 2 outcomes for each of those. Again, if that doesn't make sense, we'll pop over into our breakout rooms and talk it out a little bit more. All right, so for art and culture and healthy and thriving community projects that have environmental focus, you only have to have one objective per key focus area that you selected. You'll notice also on the application, it kind of talks about it asks for output or outcomes. So the reason for that is we know we're going to have projects that are going to be more activity based. For example, there will be 5 healthy food test tasting events for the year. That's going to be an output. But we also want to see those outcomes. And this is going to be who's better off by the activity that you're actually doing. So for those projects that have the ability to report on outcomes about who's impacted or who is better off in the community because of the activities, we want to see those. So we expect to see those. And you'll see on the next page what that would look like in the system. And then we give them a little bit of an example of what we mean by the output and the outcomes. So for this first one, for example, this is going to be one of our output examples. So by June 2023, we want to make sure that we want to see that 50 Lauderhill residents with repeat high blood pressure participate in the hypertension program. But then we have over here, as you can see, our 2 outcomes. Basically, because of this, who is going to be better off? Of these 50 people that we served, how many can we say actually benefited or was their health was improved because of that that intervention, if you will. So in here, and this is going to be emailed out, so you'll have all of this information in front of you. So just some more takeaways. There is an evaluation narrative in there as well. So that box that's in there, that's really for us on the back end to be able to actually track the impact that we're having collectively as a community in Broward that are doing good for the community. But also there is a narrative where you can freehand and really get down and tell us what your project is or how your project will be successful, what success looks like, and what activities are going to be done to track that success. There's going to be a sustainability question, like Angelica mentioned. If you're planning to do a multi-year, how is this going to be sustained over time after our funding is complete? And then there's also a question about what this program would look like if you can only receive partial funding. So there's also an area where you can upload any documents that you think will help strengthen your application or help explain other areas. This is also a good place as you're doing your complete narrative throughout. If you want to have attachments, let's say you want to attach XYZ, I'm just going to call it XYZ to the application. You can say attachment 1. And then later on down here, you'll have the ability to do a freehand and say attachment 1 is blah, blah, blah. And when you upload, you would do the same thing in just a sequence of documents showing all of your attachments. That would make it very easy for the committee to kind of work through everything that you have. And then again, those letters of commitments, make sure you have those uploaded. So additionally, we are collecting demographic data. So this is what you'll see in the system, and it's just collecting some preliminary data about zip codes, race and ethnicity, and race and ethnicity. And the reason for this is for us to also try to figure out, where are we funding? Are we funding the individual or the nonprofits who are serving the population that actually needs it? A program can be amazing and awesome all day, but until it reaches the intended person, the person who will be better off with that intervention, then what are we doing, right? So we want to make sure that in the background, we are being intentional and about that as well. If you are awarded, there will be a lot more demographic data, but we'll talk about that once you are, kind of what the expectations are. And then here, finally, we have our frequently asked questions. This is the tentative schedule. You can find this in, hopefully on our website soon. I don't know if we have the link, but there will be an email that comes out after this, and they'll include the link to this as well. So you'll have this information. But this is where you can just join us and talk it out. We can talk out what you're thinking, and just try to come up with solutions to any questions that you have after this. And that is it for me.
Great.